Types of matrix. What is a matrix? A rectangular arrangement of numbers in the form of rows and columns is known as a matrix. Here, A is a matrix having 2 rows and 3 columns. So, matrix A is of order 2 into 3. Based on certain properties, we can define some different types of matrices. Let us understand them one by one. First, we have row matrix. As the name suggests, a matrix having only one row of elements is known as a row matrix. A row matrix can have any number of columns. Here, matrix A has only one row and 2 columns. So, matrix A is a row matrix of order 1 into 2. Similarly, we have matrix B having only one row but 3 columns. So, matrix B is a row matrix of order 1 into 3. So, in a row matrix, we have only one row and any number of columns. Next, we have column matrix. As the name suggests, a matrix having only one column of elements is known as column matrix. A column matrix can have any number of rows. Here, matrix P has only one column and 2 rows. So, matrix P is a column matrix of order 2 into 1. Similarly, we have matrix Q having only one column but 3 rows. So, matrix Q is a column matrix of order 3 into 1. So, in a column matrix, we have only one column and any number of rows. Next, we have square matrix. As the name suggests, the matrix must look like a square, and that is only possible when we have same number of rows and columns. Therefore, a matrix having same number of rows and columns is known as a square matrix. A square matrix can have any number of rows and columns, but they must be equal. Here, matrix C has 2 rows and 2 columns. So, matrix C is a square matrix of order 2 into 2. Similarly, we have matrix D having 3 rows and 3 columns. So, matrix D is a square matrix of order 3 into 3. So, in a square matrix, we have equal rows and equal columns. Next, we have rectangular matrix. As the name suggests, the matrix must look like a rectangle, and that is only possible when we have different number of rows and columns. Therefore, a matrix in which number of rows and columns are not equal is known as a rectangular matrix. A rectangular matrix can have any number of rows and columns, but they must be unequal. Here, matrix X has 2 rows and 3 columns. So, matrix X is a rectangular matrix of order 2 into 3. Similarly, we have matrix Y having 3 rows and 2 columns. So, matrix Y is a rectangular matrix of order 3 into 2. So, in a rectangular matrix, we have unequal rows and columns. Next, we have zero matrix or null matrix. As the name suggests, a matrix in which all elements are 0 is known as a zero matrix. A zero matrix can have any number of rows and columns. Here, matrix E has 2 rows and 1 column, and all elements are 0. So, matrix E is a zero matrix of order 2 into 1. Similarly, we have matrix F having 2 rows and 2 columns, and all elements are 0. So, matrix F is a zero matrix of order 2 into 2. So, in a zero matrix, we have all elements 0. To understand next type of matrix, we must know the meaning of principal diagonal. The principal diagonal of a square matrix means the diagonal from upper left corner to bottom right. For instance, if matrix G is a square matrix of order 3 into 3, then this diagonal is known as principal diagonal. Similarly, if matrix H is a square matrix of order 2 into 2, then this diagonal is known as its principal diagonal. Therefore, principal diagonal is the diagonal from upper left corner to bottom right of a square matrix. Next type of matrix is a diagonal matrix. A square matrix in which all non-diagonal elements are 0 is known as a diagonal matrix. A diagonal matrix can have any number of rows and columns, but it must be a square matrix. Here, matrix J has 2 rows and 2 columns, and all non-diagonal elements are 0. So, matrix J is a diagonal matrix of order 2 into 2. Similarly, we have matrix K having 3 rows and 3 columns, and all non-diagonal elements are 0. So, matrix K is a diagonal matrix of order 3 into 3. So, a diagonal matrix must be a square matrix having all non-diagonal elements 0. Next type of matrix is unit matrix or identity matrix. A diagonal matrix in which all diagonal elements are 1 is known as an identity matrix. An identity matrix can have any number of rows and columns, but it must be a diagonal matrix. Here, matrix S has 2 rows and 2 columns, and all diagonal elements are 1 and non-diagonal elements are 0. So, matrix S is an identity matrix of order 2 into 2. Similarly, we have matrix T having 3 rows and 3 columns, and all diagonal elements are 1 and non-diagonal elements are 0. So, matrix T is an identity matrix of order 3 into 3. So, an identity matrix must be a diagonal matrix having all diagonal elements 1. So, in this video, we have learned 7 types of matrices, that is row matrix, column matrix, square matrix, rectangular matrix, zero matrix, diagonal matrix, and identity matrix. All these types of matrices are very useful in solving various problems.